You've seen them, but you probably haven't paid much attention to them. They blend into the background with their regulation navy blazers, calmly gazing into the middle distance, breaking their sphinx-like form only to gesture, "Not so close," or "No flash." They're not rich or famous or even especially qualified, but they are entrusted with safeguarding some of the world's greatest treasures. In his book, All the Beauty in the World, Patrick Bringley chronicles his 10-year experience as a museum guard at the legendary Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan. Bringley gives an insider's perspective on this curious profession of museum guard. Tips for standing in one place for 8 to 12 hours at a time. Which hot dog vendors out front give a discount to the guards. And the camaraderie formed by a 600-person corps of guards, half of whom are foreign-born. So these museum guards are the people charged with observing and containing the 7 million visitors that pass through the doors of the Met each year. Pilgrims and tourists from all over the world who come to pay homage. Bringley, who describes himself as not religious, often uses words like homage or adoration to describe the posture of the visitors he observes. He writes, "I think that sometimes we need permission to stop and adore, and a work of art grants us that." So why do people come to the Met? Well, says Bringley, here are a few typical profiles. First, there are sightseers, proudly wearing a jacket of their local sports team, camera hanging on a strap around their neck, looking for the headliners, the most famous pieces of art, to capture on film, proof for the folks back home. The sightseers just want to see it, snap it, and move on. There's the one fellow who, trying unsuccessfully to find his way out of the maze of the early Renaissance section, swore repeatedly and exclaimed, "I'm in the Jesus pictures again." Then there's the dinosaur hunter, the harried mom with small children looking for interactive exhibits. She welcomes the guards' advice to check out the mummies and the knights in shining armor. There's the art critic, armed with some knowledge of the subject matter and not afraid to share it, moving slowly among the fast-paced crowd. And then there are the people who are just baffled by the vastness of it all. "Hey, is this real?" they ask in front of a 5,000-year-old flint arrowhead from Mesopotamia. Bringley likes the baffled people. We should all be baffled in front of such greatness, he says, for none of us knows much of anything about the subject of the world and all of its beauty. It's those who are baffled, who allow themselves to be disoriented and to get lost, that are often the most open, the most receptive, and the most susceptible to wonder. Today's gospel passage paints a picture of travelers who make their way from faraway lands in order to pay homage. These aren't mere sightseers, they're magi, wise ones, on a long and winding journey from the east to Jerusalem, a religious, political, and economic power center, a logical place to look for a king. Upon arrival, they were received at Herod's court, where they inquired, "Where is the child king? For we have observed his star and have come to pay him homage." Matthew doesn't tell us much about these wise ones. Are they only men? Are there just 3 of them? What are their names? But the tradition of the Western Church fills in the blanks, naming them Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, and asserting that they come from Persia, Arabia, and Babylon. History suggests that they were members of the priestly caste of Zoroastrianism, so armed with some knowledge of the stars. So Herod calls his advisors to ask where this rival king is to be born. And they respond by quoting the prophet Micah, "And you, Bethlehem, from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people." So Herod orders the Magi to search diligently for this child and then to report back to him so that he too might pay homage. But from there, the Magi changed course, making their way some 5 miles southwest toward Bethlehem, a tiny, humble village. They continue to follow the star until it stops, and there they find the child with his mother, and they are overwhelmed with joy. Can you picture it? Patrick Bringley can. In his book, he writes about a moment that he stood in front of a painting of this exact biblical scene with the Magi. It was not long after his beloved older brother had died from cancer at age 27. Seeking a moment of quiet in a museum, Brinkley found himself drawn to stop in front of one particular Renaissance painting. It shows Mary and her infant Jesus in a grotto, beneath a star, surrounded by an adoring crowd of kings and angels. Mary maintains her gaze on the infant lying peacefully in the manger. Bringley writes, "A scene of this type is called an adoration, and I held the rather beautiful word in my mind. How useful a name for a kind of tender worship that arises in such a moment. We are silenced by such a vision, softened by what is vibrant and unhidden, but felt only weakly amid the clamor of everyday life. We're silenced by such a vision, softened by what is vibrant and unhidden, but felt only weakly amid the clamor of everyday life." He continues, "No doubt you have felt this way about a sleeping child, or about the rising sun, or the pounding surf, or about a holy relic or a sweetly painted picture by a long-dead Italian. Watching my big brother squeeze hands and bravely endure, I had felt hardly anything else." I wonder, when in recent memory have you felt this way? A moment when we're silenced or softened in front of something vibrant that reveals itself to us, something exquisitely beautiful or joyful or true, perhaps even in the midst of something very difficult. Was it in an out-of-the-ordinary setting, a mountaintop experience, or was it right in the middle of everyday life? What did it feel like? Like silence or softening or something else? Where did you feel it? A flutter in your heart, a catch in your breath, a lump in your throat? And what sort of response does a moment like this call forth from us? Do we instinctively grab for our phone to take a picture of it? Do we rush past it and look for something else? Do we rationalize it or critique it? Or do we allow ourselves to be baffled, even for a moment, to ask questions? Is it real? To be open or disoriented, to get lost in wonder. The word epiphany means appearing or revealing. At Epiphany, we celebrate God appearing to us in the person of Jesus as an adorable, vulnerable, tiny human. And as people learning to follow Jesus, we look to his first followers, the Magi, who reveal to us their way of response, adoration. They stop, they kneel down and show reverence. They give meaningful gifts. Gold to acknowledge Jesus' royal lineage, frankincense to honor his priestly nature, and myrrh, a precious oil often used to anoint the dead, a sign of the true humanity of this Christ child. What's more, the Magi show us how to be completely open to encounter, to be overwhelmed with joy, and to listen deeply for what that moment may reveal to us. We're told that the Magi learned in a dream not to return to the perfidious Herod, so they allow their plans to be altered and to be led home by a different route altogether. Epiphany is a time for adoration. And the good news is, it's not over in a day, it's an entire season. And this year it lasts right up to the beginning of March. Spoiler alert, we end up in the Jesus pictures again. This week, the adoration of the Magi. Next week, the baptism of Jesus in the River Jordan. And the following week, the wedding at Cana. These three events celebrated as one at Epiphany by Eastern Christians. So plenty of time to keep our eyes open for Jesus, the Word made flesh, in all the beauty of the world and in all its pain. All of it. The incarnation means there's no part of our world that God has not experienced with us. If you're one for New Year's resolutions, what if instead of dieting or exercising, we resolved to make more room for awe and wonder in our lives? To notice what it is we pay attention to, and to consider if it's worthy of our meaningful gifts and our deepest energies. To ask, is this real? To allow our hearts and minds to be open to the possibility of God showing up in even the unlikeliest of places, and to journey onward by a path shaped by dreams and stars. Amen.